It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre, fired up, ready to go as usual. Week 10 of the FCS slate is upon us. 6 teams in action. I'll tell you all about it in our opening drive. We start the drive with the lone idle team in Week 10. St. Francis U is sitting pretty on its bye week. The 38-17 win at Sacred Heart last week moved the Red Flash to 4-0 in NEC play for the first time ever. St. Francis is now 1 win away from clinching at least a share of its first ever Northeast Conference crown. While the Red Flash are resting up for their November 12th tilt against CCSU, 6 NEC teams will be in action, 3 conference games. We'll start the rundown on Staten Island, where Wagner will host Duquesne. The Dukes and the Seahawks were picked at opposite ends of the NEC preseason poll, but heading into the season's 10th week, they are in the exact same position. Duquesne and Wagner, both 2-1 in Northeast Conference play, both tied for second place behind 4-0 St. Francis. We'll have more about Wagner and Duquesne later on in the show. For now, we'll make our way up to the Nutmeg State. It's Sacred Heart and Central Connecticut, the in-state rivalry. Sacred Heart, which is looking to bounce back from last week's loss against St. Francis, owns the NEC's top rushing attack. That should pose a challenge for the CCSU defense. Look for linebacker Randall Laguerre to be flying around the field. He leads the league in tackles, and he'll be looking to stop a Sacred Heart rushing attack that averages 5 yards per carry. Now we take it a little further north from Connecticut up to Rhode Island. It's Bryant hosting Robert Morris. It'll be senior day in Smithfield as quarterback Dalton Easton gets set to play his final home game. He leads an offense that ranks second in the Northeast Conference in scoring average, more than 28 points per contest. Easton will lead the Bulldogs up against what has been a rather stout Robert Morris defense in recent weeks. The Colonials are holding NEC opponents to under 20 points per game. In particular, Robert Morris's defense has been great in the red zone. They lead the NEC in red zone efficiency. The Colonials have surrendered only 18 touchdowns despite opponents making 37 trips inside the Robert Morris 20. After a long, methodical opening drive, it's time to take a look at the NEC stock market. Let's see who is on the way up. And this week, the subject of our Stock Rising segment is Wagner receiver John Williams. He's a first-year Seahawk, comes to Grimes Hill via Lackawanna Junior College, originally from South Jersey, and he's been quite an addition for quarterback Alex Thompson and the Seahawks offense. The big body, a huge catch radius. He went 6 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown this past week at FBS member UMass. He will pose quite a test for the Duquesne secondary this weekend on Staten Island. Wide receiver John Williams, his stock is on the rise, but he's not alone. A lot of wide receiver talent here in the Northeast Conference. Just last week, Duquesne's Blair Roberts had 4 touchdown receptions in a game. Bryant's Keenan Thompson had 4 touchdown receptions in the same game. And then, of course, there's St. Francis's Cameron Lewis, who we've covered in this segment earlier in the season. Duquesne's Wayne Capers, Bryant's Taylor Bartholet. The talent at receiver runs deep in the NEC. At this juncture, I'll take my Twitter timeout. We'll feature a tweet from John out in Loretto this week. He makes an extremely astute observation saying that Zach Dreyer had a day. And a day he did have. 4 passing touchdowns for Dreyer in the road win over Sacred Heart that tied a single-game program record, and he went over the 300-yard passing mark for the first time in his career. As for the team he's leading, they deserve some congratulations as well. A huge road win against a prime opponent. Sacred Heart was 6-1 overall entering last week's game against SFU. And the program's first 5-game winning streak at the FCS level. Zach Dreyer had a day. SFU won a big one. Good times right now out in central Pennsylvania.
Somerset, it's an NEC Audible.
Now let's take a quick listen to Sacred Heart head coach Mark Nofri, whose Pioneers suffered their second league loss last week against St. Francis. Still, at 6-2 overall, the Pioneers have plenty to play for.
The biggest thing for us is to try and finish the season as strong as we can. Obviously, 9-2 is still a very good record in college football. And if you told me I could be 9-2 at the end of the year, I would sign for a heartbeat.
Nofri knows that before he can go 9-2, he has to get to 7-2. And standing in his way is a dangerous in-state rival.
They did beat us last year. They beat us 28-10, I believe, and they're in every ball game. It's not like they're a bad football team, because their record doesn't speak for what type of team they are. I mean, they're talented, they're athletic, and they play hard. They went down, almost got one at Coastal Carolina 2 weeks ago versus a very good team. So I'm sure our kids know that they need to be ready to play against Central Connecticut, and we're going up there on the road, which is a tough place to play.
Now it's time to drop a little nugget of knowledge on you, as we do every week in the DYK. So did you know that Duquesne senior linebacker Christian Kuntz has made at least one half tackle for a loss in each of his past 18 games? You have to go back to week 2 of the 2015 season. Duquesne beat up on Bucknell that week. Kuntz did not have a hit for loss, but he did have an interception in the victory. Once again, Kuntz leading the NEC in tackles for a loss, 16.5 on the year. 7.5 of those are sacks. Kuntz is only a couple quarterback takedowns away from becoming the NEC's all-time career leader. The All-American linebacker continues to do his thing for the Dukes. So as we enter the stretch run of the NEC football season, hopefully we set you up nicely for the Week 10 games. 3 key conference contests. We'll have them all live at necfrontrow.com. Get out there, enjoy the games. For NEC Front Row, I'm Ralph Ventre. Thanks for watching the whole 9 yards.